Now, damn, I think my time is up and I have 19 more slides, so let me see how I'm doing here on time. Haven't even got to the good part yet. No, I actually have 3 more minutes, according to the TED proviso. 8? Wow! Holy cow, I can go slower. Okay, so I have 10 key aspects of this neurological self-development. Now, this ought to take about an hour, or at least 8 minutes. Now, first of all, the child's brain has to learn how to learn. And what I mean by that is if you look at the learning machine of any brain, you see that it's not optimal. The brain actually has a machine that controls the learning. You know, I said you have those on-off switches. Well, those on-off switches could be working very well, right? They can be powerful. They can say, save that one. Or they can say, save that one, right? So one of the things you have to think about is what it takes to empower the learning machinery itself. Turns out it's plastic. It's regulated in its power. It's regulated in its status as a function of how it's used. It actually learns, in a sense, how to learn. It develops an efficiency through its use. So one of the things you have to think about that's really important to think about is how do I engage this machinery? How do I engage the learning machinery so it's heavily exercised? Every kid should spend a significant part of every day, they do naturally, they want to, brains want to do that, in the development of new skills and abilities. Should be a part of every day. Now, I don't mean just learning new things. I don't mean just reading another book. That's important. I don't want to dismiss that. I'm absolutely for that. But I mean learning new skills and abilities. After-school programs can provide that richly. They're really engaging the learning machinery of the brain and exercising the hell out of it if they're effective, if they're good. New things, new skills, new challenges. Different children can, I also say the brain is also heavily stimulated by novelty, by surprise, by wonder. Right? We love this, the brain loves this. It's the food of the brain. The food wants things to be different. It wants to see something that doesn't quite fit. It's amused when it sees something that has a little twist on the expected. And that amusement is really reflecting the fact that you're engaging the machinery that's actually controlling its change. Different children can have substantially different learning styles. I supported a study that was done at the University of California where we looked at the attentional control of different individuals that were in their early 20s as they're in a particular intensive learning task. And so we look at these people and we're looking continuously down in their brains and recording from their brains complexly as they go through this task. And we see 20 different variations. Some kids, young people, challenged to basically focus to something that's going to occur at a certain point in time, really powerfully organize their brain to get right there fast, like a rocket. You can see their brain is really focusing on where they expect to happen, makes an immediate, accurate decision. You can see all this happening in the neurology. The next kid, the next young person, basically pokes along, never looks like they're really ever really ready. You see relatively weak effects, and it looks like the brain is never really quite there, but guess what? All children, all young people that participated in this study were either medical students or doctoral students. They were all highly competent and highly successful and highly effective. Different children have different learning styles. Some kids will dive to the answer in anticipation. The next kid will be slow, pokey, but maybe never get it wrong. Now that doesn't mean that every learning style is a good one. They're not all good ones. But I did this experiment specifically to know whether or not I would dare to define what an ideal learning style was from the point of view of controlling your attentional resources, and then trying to make every kid basically deliver it to them. And it didn't take very long to realize that this was utter foolishness. I mean, maybe I could wipe out an engineering class or an artistic class in the world. That wouldn't be good, would it? Point is, you have to acknowledge the fact that different children have different ways, different strategies that have been developed in their early histories that contribute to their strategies of learning. And different strategies can be highly effective. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to be good at everything in the same way. It doesn't mean that. But it means that people can be good at lots of things. using strategies that can be substantially different. Critical implicit abilities enable or empower or limit almost every important explicit ability. You don't build your ability to operate on complex levels of thought and reason on a platform of sand. You have to have a good platform of automatized abilities with how you're taking in information and manipulating information. You don't build a math wizard that can't facilely deal with the very simple and elemental functions of math. You can't come from that. Every complex ability is based upon a foundation, a strong foundation of fundamental skills and abilities that are in the brain, as William James would said more than 100 years ago, as habits. You have to give every kid that deep and wide foundation to build the real capabilities for complex operations in a way that the kid is fully empowered. Every refined ability is a direct product of brain use. Now, this is way too long. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show the next slide so it can be in the video, the YouTube, right? Okay. Recording moment. Okay. Lots of good stuff here. You see this later. You'd be good though. Okay. Now I want to say a little bit about the last point. And that it's way too much in education that's focused on loading brains with content. I mean, it's like you have to put a funnel in the kid's head and say, how much can I get in there? And then they say, well, a kid doesn't get all this content because working 5 hours a day, they only get half as much as I want. So let's put the funnel in for 10 hours a day. That'll solve the problem, right? When the real problem can be that they really don't have the resources or the motivation or whatever it takes to drive the changes that would drive the correction. Right? So you basically have to address the problem where it is. Loading the brain with content should be secondary to training those young brains how to be really good at it. You know, we can take the average kid's brain who's struggling, and we can very substantially improve their ability to record, that is to say, remember what just happened. We can very substantially improve the ability of the brain to change. And we see it change in front of us. We record from the brain, we image it, we put the kid through a task, we train the kid, we look again, the brain has changed in a very positive way. More often than not, looks normal. Now, it's better to remember twice as much. If I want to spend, the next 20 years in the kid's life trying to make them an effective adult, it's better if they remember twice as much, wouldn't it be? It's better if they can be enabled to read, so like the kids on the top of the class, by the time they're 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 years old, they're reading 1 million or 2 or 3 million words a year for fun. That's better than reading like the kids at the bottom of the class commonly do, 1 or 2 or 3,000 words, not very much fun. Who do you think is going to succeed in life? Who do you think by the criteria we have of what success is, we're going to regard as successful? I could say a lot about that. And I'm going to, because that's my last slide. If I could ever get to it. This is fractious. All right, that's it. Button pressing. Better. Okay. So, I'm going to say what Bob said. These are human beings. These are little human beings. These are not, the children, of course, are little human beings. They're on a journey, they're early on the journey, in which they're basically working at still creating, and certainly still learning to operate in the model of the world that they've created. And they're doing all of that by brain change. Now, we've actually constructed a system, we've actually constructed a society by which our current predominant educational strategies pretty much assure that one of these kids is going to be a loser. By our criteria, right? Which are dumb criteria. A kid shows up at the schoolhouse door, and the kid has a conduct disorder, which I might want to say, we almost immediately think about blaming on them. They're not at fault. We shouldn't blame them for that. And then the kid, of course, maybe has a very poor preparation for succeeding at school, and they don't succeed. They almost immediately self-identify as someone that's not good at this, not good at their first real introduction to the wider society that we want them to be attached to. We are almost deliberately detaching them. What a destructive, stupid thing to do. You know, if a kid shows up with a conduct disorder, comorbid ADHD, entering school, you know, a little boy has about a 50-50 chance of committing a felony before their 30th birthday. Why don't we just shoot him? What the hell are we doing? Why wouldn't we rescue every one of those kids? Why don't we understand that what they are and how they operate is a direct consequence, a direct product of where they've been in life? Why don't we understand that where they are and their capacities in operation in life are the product of a plastic brain that hasn't given up its plasticity, that's not doomed to this fate. It's continuously plastic. We could change it big time in the next year. Why don't we change it? How do we dare not change it? So my strong feeling is that the science tells us once again that we understand we have enormous capacities to drive changes in brains in little kids that completely change the fate of the course of their lives. And we have a responsibility, I agree with Bob, to try to sort out how to deliver that effective, positive change in children in great need of help. We can improve the life of every child. But there's absolutely no excuse in contemporary society for allowing so many children to fall off the cliff. Absolutely no excuse. Now, I want to say one final thing, is that in my own research and in the research that I'm doing with my colleagues, we're primarily focused on kids that are really in trouble. And these are kids that have special neurological or psychiatric burdens, and there are in the millions in our population. And there's going to be a tremendous positive push from my science that can contribute to the health of these children. If you want any more information about this is hard science to get to. It's hard to get the details. I've written a book which is in press. The title of the book is Softwired. So you might look for that in the not too distant future. It's being published by John Wiley and Associates. And it's a little bit nerdy, but it's meant to be. I wrote it on a level that I hope my mother, my dear mother, if she were still alive, could understand. Also say that I'm with you in this mission, although I'm a very busy and engaged person. And if there's any way that I can help anybody in the front lines, any immediate way, let me know. And I'll certainly try to help if I can. I've always regarded myself as a former University of California professor as a servant of the people of California. You paid for my wages for many, many years, and I'm obligated to help. And with that, thank you very much.